What if a frozen island with just 56,000 people could trigger World War III? By the end of this video, you'll understand why 3 superpowers are fighting over what most people think is just ice and snow. Greenland. Icy, remote, and silent, for decades, it was a forgotten corner of the map. But today, this giant frozen island sits at the center of a high-stakes geopolitical chess match. Trillions of dollars in untapped resources, strategic military positioning, and the looming specter of climate change have turned Greenland into one of the most contested pieces of land on Earth. But here's what nobody talks about. There's a secret reason why this matters to everyone personally, and that will be revealed in just a moment. At first glance, Greenland looks like nothing more than an enormous stretch of ice and rock, a territory owned by Denmark with a tiny population and little economic output. But beneath its icy surface and beyond its jagged coastlines lies immense strategic and economic potential. Think Greenland is just about ice? Wait until you hear about the $1 trillion secret buried underneath. For the United States, Greenland offers a key vantage point, geographically placed between North America and Europe, and touching the very edge of the Arctic. The U.S. has long maintained a presence here. During World War II, American troops were stationed on the island to defend against Nazi Germany. By the Cold War, Greenland hosted one of America's most northern military installations, Thule Air Base, used for radar surveillance and high-altitude reconnaissance against the Soviet Union. But here's the crazy part. In 1946, America actually tried to buy Greenland with a briefcase full of gold. Denmark said no. That decision might have been the biggest geopolitical mistake of the 20th century. But when the Cold War ended, the urgency faded. Military bases were downsized, equipment abandoned, and interest in Greenland all but vanished. That is, until now. Because what happened next changed everything, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Something happened in the last 2 decades. The Arctic began to melt, literally. As carbon emissions trapped more heat in the atmosphere, the Arctic Ocean started warming 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. Ice caps receded. Frozen waters cracked open. And this is where it gets personal, because what's happening in Greenland right now could double the price of everything people buy online. And with them, new shipping lanes emerged, particularly the Northwest Passage and the Northern Sea Route. For global trade, this is nothing short of revolutionary. Ships can now shave off thousands of miles on routes between Asia, Europe, and North America. We're talking about cutting a journey from Shanghai to New York from 24 days to just 15 days. That's not just convenience. That's billions in saved costs that will either go to corporate profits or get passed on to consumers. Whoever controls these routes can control much of the world's supply chain, 80% of which travels by sea. And at the very center of these routes, Greenland. No longer a frozen backwater, Greenland has become the gatekeeper to the Arctic, and the world's powers have taken notice. And trust me, what they're doing about it will shock you. The United States isn't the only player eyeing Greenland. Russia has been aggressively militarizing its Arctic frontier, building bases along its northern coast, and even planting a flag on the ocean floor beneath the North Pole to stake its territorial claim. Yes, you heard that right. They literally planted a flag on the ocean floor like they're claiming the moon. Meanwhile, China, a country with no Arctic border, has declared itself a near-Arctic state and invested billions into Arctic research stations, infrastructure projects, and diplomatic leverage. But China's real strategy is so clever, it's almost devious. Let me show you exactly how they're trying to backdoor their way into controlling the Arctic. In Greenland, Chinese companies have attempted to buy abandoned naval bases, fund airport construction, and secure mining licenses. In one instance, a Chinese-backed company offered to help build several airports in exchange for using Chinese construction firms. Sounds innocent, right? Wrong. This triggered alarm bells in Washington because they recognized this playbook. It's the same one China used to gain control of ports in Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Africa. The US lobbied Denmark to intervene. And they did, stepping in to fund the projects instead with American taxpayer money. But wait, it gets worse. Remember those rare earth minerals I mentioned? China already controls 80% of the world's supply. If they got Greenland too. Then came the mining game. Greenland holds an estimated 25% of the world's undiscovered hydrocarbons, 9% of global coal deposits, and a wealth of rare earth minerals. Critical components in everything from smartphones to missiles. Your phone, your car, your laptop, they all depend on these materials. China already controls a dominant share of the world's rare earth supply. Gaining access to Greenland could have strengthened that grip. But once again, US influence helped derail Chinese deals and buy out projects with massive funding. The Arctic, it seems, is not just thawing physically, it's heating up politically. And what Trump did next made everyone realize this wasn't a game anymore. In 2019, President Donald Trump made headlines by publicly expressing interest in buying Greenland. The media went crazy. Late-night comedians had a field day. World leaders called it absurd. But what if I told you that Trump wasn't crazy? He was actually 70 years late, and that some of the smartest military strategists in the world had been saying the exact same thing for decades. Back in 1946, the US offered Denmark $100 million in gold for Greenland. In today's money, that's about $1.5 billion. Denmark declined, but allowed the US to maintain military access. Here's what the media didn't tell you. Trump's proposal came just weeks after classified intelligence briefings about Chinese and Russian activities in the Arctic. Coincidence? I think not. Trump revived that ambition, seeing Greenland not just as real estate, but as a keystone for national security. His administration reopened the US consulate in Nuuk for the first time in over 60 years and committed $4 billion to upgrade Greenland's northern airbase. Some speculate that the idea of buying Greenland was never meant literally, but rather as a psychological warfare tactic to send a message to China and Russia. And it worked. Because now we come to the really interesting part. What do the people of Greenland actually want? And their choice could change the world. Today, Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark, but its future status remains uncertain. In 2009, Greenland gained the legal right to pursue full independence. And while its economy still relies heavily on an annual Danish subsidy of roughly $600 million, Greenlandic leaders have shown increasing interest in self-reliance. Imagine you're a young person in Greenland. Your entire future depends on a choice between three very different paths, and each one comes with massive risks. To achieve independence, they'll need economic development, and that means mining, tourism, and investment. China, with its deep pockets and appetite for resources, looks like a tempting partner. But here's the terrifying part. China has a playbook for this, and it doesn't end well for small countries. Beijing has a record of debt trap diplomacy, extending loans and infrastructure deals that can later be used for political leverage. Sri Lanka learned this the hard way when they had to hand over a strategic port to China for 99 years after they couldn't repay Chinese loans. The US, on the other hand, offers protection, but at the risk of influence without ownership. It's like being protected by a bodyguard who might decide what you can and can't do. Caught between rival superpowers, Greenland faces a defining choice: pursue independence and risk being pulled into a new form of colonization by economic means, or remain under the Danish umbrella and protect its fragile autonomy. And here's our prediction. Within the next 10 years, we're going to see one of three outcomes, and each one will reshape the world order. Whether the US tightens its grip, China finds its opening, or Greenland charts its own course, one thing is clear. This icy island will shape the future of geopolitics far beyond its shores. Because in the Arctic, the ice may be melting, but the stakes have never been colder. What do you think will happen? Will America maintain control? Will China find a way in? Or will Greenland surprise everyone and go it alone? Let me know in the comments below, and if this opened your eyes to how connected our world really is, hit that subscribe button, because stories like this are exactly what we cover on this channel.